Alright everybody, so I wanted to make just a real quick video to walk through quickly a coolant related issue that I think, anyway, fingers crossed, that I've finally gotten resolved. And the first symptom was, it was about 2 weeks ago, and I had just started it up and was driving probably not maybe a mile from home, and so it certainly was not up to temperature. And then all of a sudden, inside the car on the dash, I got a warning about engine coolant being too hot to pull over. You know, all the bells and whistles started to go off, telling me there's an imminent problem when there's no way it could have been hot. So anyway, and the temperature just bounced around. I mean, it bounced from in the low 100s all the way to mid 200s, and just back and forth, just really sporadic. So anyway, I drove it another probably 1 mile to where I was going, actually, and turned it off and went in and ate, and then came back out, and it was fine, and it continued to be fine for about a week or so after that. And then it happened again, and so ended up getting a couple parts. I started with one particular part, the the Engine Coolant Sensor, Temperature Sensor, and replaced that. Tested it just here, sitting in the garage, cranked it, let it get to temperature, and it continued to go beyond the 194, which is where it's always pegged. And so that clearly, if it was a problem, and it may have been a problem, it wasn't all of the problem. So my next step, did a little more research, and there was a nice thread on, actually a couple threads on Renlist that described how, and I'm forgetting the exact name of the part, but basically a coolant vacuum solenoid switch that can get stuck, and if that gets stuck open, then it effectively doesn't tell the water pump to turn on, activate, to let water through the system, and so it causes overheating. And so anyway, I spent countless hours, because that really did sound like exactly what had happened to mine, the exact issue, but I spent way too much time trying to find this stupid solenoid valve on my 4.0 turbo. And so the Renlist posting was apparently, I guess, maybe a 3.0, so a single turbo, and the solenoid switch was in a very different spot. So I want to show you where these two parts are, and again on the dual turbo 4.0, to hopefully save some of you significant time and frustration trying to find where the part is and trying to figure out exactly which part needs replacing. So okay, so here we are. Yeah, I've clearly taken some stuff off, and I didn't have to take anything off the driver's side, the left side, but again, I was on a hunt for the solenoid switch for a long time, so checked over there even. Okay, so see if we can get in here. Let me change my headlamp a little bit here. Okay, so you got to take all the trim off, obviously, so you can get into the coolant hoses and such. And actually, the solenoid valve is easier to get to than the coolant temperature sensor. So this right here, and I don't know, let's see if I can get it to zoom here, but this part right here that I'm tapping on, you can see it's got the connector there. So this is your, and again, I'm probably not calling it by the exact right thing, but the coolant, the vacuum coolant solenoid valve. And there is obviously the electrical connection. That's here on this end. And then here is a vacuum line. That gray hose underneath the electrical connector. Let's see if I can get some better light on it. That's what's on this left-hand side. And then on the other side, and you really can't see this until you take some stuff apart, but on the other side there are another 2 vacuum hoses. So we get it to zoom here. There's one that points straight up, and then there's one that points from this perspective to the right, okay, towards the driver's side. This is a left-hand drive vehicle. And those are relatively easy to get off. The one on this side, the vacuum hose on this side, is actually a little bit tricky because it actually gets pressed all the way into a little recessed area. So what I ended up doing was getting a pick that kind of angles back. I think I ended up using the rounded end pick and just kind of putting it up inside the recessed area, and then just kind of lightly grabbing and rotating backwards to start working that hose out, and then it ultimately came out. Wasn't all that much trouble. So that is the part that I believe was at least the primary problem, and I've done a test since getting it put back in, and it has been fine. It held steady at 194 for about 15 minutes, so that's good. Now, you do have to take some stuff apart, so you're going to have to take this brace off. You have to take, obviously, this wiring harness. You have to undo it. You will have to, or you may not have to, but it was certainly a lot easier. But I disconnected the right sides of these wiring harness. I guess that's the only side that actually disconnects. So disconnect those. That allows you to get this out of the way. You will need to undo this air hose. Let's see, I got a little coolant there from when I refilled it earlier. But you're going to have to take this air hose off. That's easy enough to get off. And then that gives you some room, and you may have to move a few things around. I did end up taking this connector, ended up taking it off, unscrewing it, unbolting it, just so I could kind of move it out of the way. But that should allow you to get to that. Now, the coolant temperature sensor, was a bit more of a challenge. So, air hose, again, air hose out of the way. And I did replace these at 2 different points in time, but the coolant temperature sensor is basically, I don't think there's any way I can give you a shot of it. Maybe there is. It's under this air hose and kind of directly under these cables here. Let me take my headlamp off, see if I can get some better light on it. Okay, so you probably see that connector down there with what looks like blue and brown wires going into it. That's the coolant temperature sensor. So you do have to take that radiator hose off. Let me see if I can get this headlight back on now. You will have to take that radiator hose off, and of course it's going to leak coolant. So what I ultimately ended up doing was putting a plastic trash bag down in there to catch as much coolant as possible. Got the hose off, and of course it spilled out a lot, and fortunately the bag caught it. And then I had a siphon kit that I ended up using to siphon the coolant out of the trash bag and into a bucket, because otherwise you can't pull the trash bag out because it's too full and it would get snagged, and obviously then you undo all the hard work getting that bag down in there. But once you've taken that hose off, then you can actually get to that sensor, and it's fairly easy to replace. I think I've thrown away the part at this point, but there's a little plastic clip that slides over the connection point. And so that plastic clip actually slides down to take off. So it slides down towards the ground. So you have to pull that down somehow. And that was a little tricky to get under there with something that could provide some leverage. And I think what I ultimately ended up using was just a micro flathead screwdriver. You know, something you might use on a pair of eyeglasses or something. Pulled it down, and then you can pull the temperature sensor right out. A little more leaking, obviously, because that temperature sensor, the end of that, goes into the coolant stream. So you're going to get a little bit of a leak out of that. But once you get to it, it's fairly easy to replace. So getting to it, that was the hard part. So those are the two parts that, at least based on my test this afternoon, have resolved the issue. And if I had to start with one part, I would actually start with this one, because I think that one was either the main problem or the only problem. And so replacing that solenoid valve, I think, will resolve your issue if you're having this sort of crazy temperature gauge fluctuation and or it is getting hot, because that again is what allows the water pump to kick into action and allow coolant to flow through your system and cool your engine. All right, so again, let me just kind of zoom out. Again, if you've got a 4.0 with 2 turbos, that solenoid valve is on the front of your engine, just under one of your big air hose here. So it's just sitting right here, and there's actually, you're probably not going to be able to see this, but down at the bottom underneath that solenoid valve, there are 2 little plastic pieces that hold it into place, and you just need to squeeze them and then pull the part off. Okay, and then when you put them on, you just snap it right back into place, and those 2 prongs expand out to keep it in place. All right, hopefully this was helpful.